The last time my daughter hugged me, she didn't know it was the last time. Neither did I. If she had, I think she still would have done what she did next. That's the part that took me the longest to accept. Welcome to Dad's Pure Revenge. If this is your first time here, I'm glad you found us. Drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from tonight. I read every one. And if you believe a father deserves better than an afterthought, hit that subscribe button before we start, because you're going to want to see how this one ends. Before I tell you what my kids did, I need you to know who taught me what a family is supposed to look like. Her name was Diane, my wife, 31 years. She waited tables at a diner on Route 9 for 6 of those years, just so Brett could play travel baseball, and she never once mentioned it to him. Not at his college graduation, not at his wedding. She kept a coffee can in the closet labeled Car Fund for our daughter Melissa, and when Melissa's transmission gave out her junior year of high school, Diane just handed her $400 in 20s like it had always been sitting there waiting. She used to say, "You don't tell people what you did for them, you just do it again tomorrow." Cancer took her in November, 4 years ago. Stage 4, diagnosed in March, gone by Thanksgiving. I watched 2 grown children cry at that funeral, like their whole world had cracked open. I believed them. I still believe they meant it, that day. My name is Walter Higgins. I'm 61. I spent 38 years as a licensed electrician in and around Fairview, Ohio, and I own the house on Corliss Street free and clear, the one Diane and I bought in 1994 for $81,000, the one both our kids grew up in. My flaw, and I'll say it plain, because Diane would want me to, I confuse keeping the peace with having it. I have spent 4 years letting my son and daughter go quiet on me for weeks at a time, and telling myself that's just how young people are now. Busy, that's all. I was wrong about that. It took me a long time to admit how wrong. Tuesday, February 3rd, 6:14 in the morning. That's the time on my phone when I woke up on my kitchen floor with my left arm numb and my chest feeling like somebody had set a cinder block on it. I don't remember dialing 911. I remember the paramedic's voice, a woman named Renata, telling me to stay awake, stay with her, and I remember thinking, clear as anything, I need to call my kids. I called Brett first from the ambulance. It rang 4 times and went to voicemail. I called Melissa. Same thing. By the time they wheeled me into St. Vincent's, it was 7:02 a.m., and I still hadn't reached either one of them. It wasn't a heart attack. Close. The doctor, a cardiologist named Priya Anand, called it a warning shot, a partially blocked artery, caught in time, but she wanted me kept 2 nights for observation and a procedure the next morning. I finally got Brett on the phone around 9. "Dad, I'm in a meeting," he said. "Is this an emergency?" "I'm in the hospital," I told him. "They think it's my heart." There was a pause. Not long. Maybe 3 seconds. "Okay, but is somebody with you? Because I really can't leave right now. We're closing a deal." I told him I understood. I want you to notice that. I told him I understood. Melissa called back around noon. When I told her, she sighed. Not sharp, not cruel, just tired, like I'd asked her to move a couch. "Dad, you scare us with this stuff a lot," she said. "Last time it was your blood pressure. I can't keep dropping everything." "I'm not asking you to drop everything," I said. "I was asking if one of you could sit with me for a procedure tomorrow." "Stop calling us," she said. Quiet, almost gentle, which somehow made it worse. "We have our own lives, Dad. We'll check in when we can." The line didn't even click loud when she hung up. It just went soft, like it had been resting there all along. The man who sat with me in that hospital room the next morning wasn't my son. It was Ron Dyer, who's lived 2 doors down from me on Corliss Street since 2003. Ron's 74, retired from the county road department, and when I texted him at 6 a.m. just to say I had a procedure at 8 and didn't want to make a big deal of it, he was in the waiting room by 7:40 with 2 coffees and a crossword folded under his arm. He didn't ask if I was scared. He just said, "I brought decaf for you. They said no caffeine," and sat down like it was the most ordinary thing in the world. Ron has a habit. Every single time he leaves my house, after fixing my gutters, or bringing over tomatoes from his garden, he says the exact same thing at the door. That's what neighbors are for. Walt. 11 words. I must have heard him say it 200 times over 20 years. I never thought much of it until that week. If you've ever had someone show up for you when the people who were supposed to didn't, you know exactly what that feels like. Type "showed up" in the comments if you've had a Ron in your life. We'll come back to this. I got discharged Thursday, February 5th. Neither of my kids called that whole week. Not once. I didn't chase it. I want to be honest with you. I didn't sit there plotting anything. I just noticed it, the way you notice a stain on a shirt you're not ready to deal with yet. I let it sit there. It was 3 weeks later, the last Saturday in February, that I found out why they'd been so hard to reach. I was at Fenwick's Hardware, picking up a new thermostat, when I ran into Carol Ann Whitfield, who'd been Diane's friend since our kids were in grade school together. She hugged me, told me it was good to see me up and around, and then she said something that stopped me cold in the paint aisle. I hear congratulations are in order. Brett and Melissa found a place already? Diane would have loved seeing the two of them so close, planning it all out together. I asked her what she meant. She looked embarrassed, like she'd said too much. The house, Walter, on Corliss. Melissa mentioned they'd started talking to a contractor about the addition once things settle. I stood there in the paint aisle for a good 10 seconds not saying anything. My house, my address, a contractor, talking about an addition once things settle, while I was still living in it, 3 weeks removed from a hospital bed, and neither one of them had called to ask how the recovery was going. I didn't say anything to Carol Ann. I thanked her, and I went home, and I sat in my kitchen, right about where I'd collapsed 3 weeks earlier, and I thought about Diane's coffee can in the closet, about 6 years of double shifts nobody ever thanked her for out loud, about "stop calling us," landing soft in my ear like it cost her nothing to say. I wasn't angry. I want to be precise about that because anger burns out. What I felt was quieter than anger. I was done. Not done with my children. I want to be clear. I never stopped loving either one of them for one single day. I was done confusing their comfort with my peace. Monday, March 2nd, 9 a.m. I was in the office of Clinton Webb, the attorney who'd handled Diane's estate and mine for 11 years. I told him everything. The hospital, the phone calls, Carol Ann in the paint aisle. Clinton didn't say much. He's not a man who editorializes. He just started writing things down. "The house is solely in your name," he said. "You can do whatever you want with it. You want to know your options, or you want to know what I'd do in your shoes?" "Both," I said. What we did was simple, and every bit of it legal, and none of it vindictive. I want that understood. I updated my will. The house on Corliss Street would go, upon my death, into a trust that split its value 3 ways. 1/3 to Brett, 1/3 to Melissa, 1/3 to the Fairview Volunteer Fire Department, the men who'd answered that 911 call in 6 minutes flat, back in February. I revoked the durable power of attorney I'd given Brett 2 years earlier without much thought, and I changed the locks. Not out of spite, out of the plain fact that grown children who tell their father to stop calling them have no particular claim on a key to his house. I also called my alarm company, Guardian Shield Security, and removed Brett and Melissa from the approved access list. Clinton suggested it. "If they show up expecting to walk in like they own the place," he said, "let them find out they don't. Legally. Quietly. No drama on your end." For 6 weeks, nothing happened. No calls from the kids. No calls from me either. Diane's voice was loud in my head that whole stretch, telling me that quiet wasn't the same as wrong. Then Melissa found out about the trust. I don't know how. Clinton thinks a paralegal's assistant mentioned it in passing to a mutual friend. The way these things travel in a town of 40,000 people. What I know is that on Thursday, April 16th, I had 1 missed call from her at 2:11 p.m. By 4:40, there were 11. By 6 that evening, 29. Brett started calling too, and by the next morning the count between the two of them was 38 missed calls and 9 voicemails I hadn't opened. She had no idea, that Thursday morning, what she'd find when she finally came to the house. But she would. Saturday, April 18th, 11:20 in the morning. I was in the kitchen, coffee going cold on the counter, same spot Diane used to stand, when I heard 2 car doors and then Brett's key sliding into a lock that no longer matched it. It didn't turn. Of course it didn't. I'd had that conversation with the locksmith 6 weeks earlier. I watched through the front window as Melissa tried the side door next. That's when the Guardian Shield response vehicle pulled up. I'd set the system to notify them the moment anyone attempted entry with an old code, which is exactly what Brett's key fob still had loaded. 2 officers from the security company, professional, calm, no theatrics, walked up the driveway and asked Brett and Melissa to step back from the property. "This is our dad's house," Melissa said, her voice climbing. "We grew up here." "I understand, ma'am," the guard said, "but you're not on the authorized access list, and the homeowner hasn't invited you in today." I finally opened the front door myself. I stood on my own porch, the one Diane and I painted together the summer of 2001, and I looked at my 2 children standing on the lawn like strangers. "Dad," Brett said, "what is this? Why do we need a security guard to talk to you?" My voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. "You told me to stop calling. I stopped. I figured that went both ways." Melissa's face folded. We didn't mean it like that." "I was on a kitchen floor in February," I said. "You told me you couldn't keep dropping everything. I understood that. I still understand it. But then I heard from Carol Ann Whitfield that you 2 had a contractor lined up for my house before I was even 6 weeks out of that hospital. So no, I don't think I misunderstood a thing." Nobody said anything for a moment. Somewhere down the block, a dog barked twice and went quiet. "We were just talking," Brett said. Quieter now. We didn't mean anything by it." "I know you didn't mean it as cruelty," I said. "I think that's almost worse. Your mother worked doubles at that diner for 6 years so you could play ball, Brett. And she never told you. Melissa, she put $400 in your hand for that transmission and never brought it up again in her life. I'm not asking either of you to pay me back for anything. I'm asking you to remember that I'm still here, and I'd like to stay part of your lives while I am." The guard asked, quietly, if I wanted them to leave the property. I said that was up to my children now, not me. They left. Not stormed off. Just left. Slower than they'd come, and Melissa looked back once from the car. "If you've ever had to draw a line with your own kids, even a small one, tell me in the comments how you found the strength. It matters more than you think to hear you're not the only one." It's been 11 weeks since that Saturday. Brett called me on a Tuesday in early May, just to talk. No agenda. And we ended up on the phone 40 minutes about nothing important. The Reds bullpen, mostly. Melissa came by 2 Sundays ago and sat on the porch with me, and we didn't discuss the house at all. I don't know yet what our family is going to look like on the other side of this. I've stopped needing to know by a deadline. What I do know is this. I spent 4 years believing that if I just kept things smooth, kept things quiet, I was keeping my family together. I wasn't. I was just keeping it comfortable for everyone but me. Diane never did that. Not once in 31 years. And I finally understand why she never seemed tired the way I feel tired now. She never mistook silence for peace. Ron Dyer still comes by most Saturdays. Fixed my porch light last week. Wouldn't take gas money for the trip to the hardware store. Same 11 words at the door when he left. That's what neighbors are for, Walt. I believe him every time. If this story meant something to you, if you've ever had to love your family and hold a boundary at the very same time, that's not a contradiction. That's what real loyalty actually looks like. Hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one here at Dad's Pure Revenge. And tell someone in your life today that you're still here, still calling, still showing up. That's the whole thing. That's all it ever was.